All right, it's that time again for the Cover Price Top 10. We're going back 3 years. All right, guys, we are going to get into this top 10 from Cover Price. We're going back 3 years. Before we do, I just want to let everyone know down in the description below, there is a discount code for Cover Price. Use it. It's an absolutely amazing tool. Also want to remind everyone, tonight, Friday night on Whatnot, I'll be having a mystery box auction. Come hang out, come watch. It's always a blast. Tomorrow night, Saturday night, I will be selling the exclusive VERYGARY Comics The Boys #1, covered by Ryan Brown. We have not a whole lot, very limited print run of Virgins and trade dress. And speaking of The Boys, right now on Kickstarter, I'll throw it in the description down below, The Boys Oversized Omnibus on Kickstarter right now. Check that out. Give it a backing. If you're into it, it's an absolutely great read. Obviously, the show is on another level as well. So with all of that, let's get into this Cover Price Top 10. Now, remember, this list comes to us from our friends over at Cover Price. Focusing on their top 10 from 3 years ago, I'm going to take you through how each title sale compares to the 2019's market values to today's. How did these comics do? What had a boost in price and what had a bust? And of course, we have to start out with number 10. This is Venom number 14, the Limb Battle Lines variant. Now, 3 years ago, Marvel's Battle Lines variants were just starting to roll out. They featured fantastic covers by the industry's best artists. This also came at a time when Carnage was super hot, giving this open order variant a significant aftermarket boost, with Raws selling for a consistent raw price of $11. 3 years later, this is still a cool cover with a current fair market value of $9. With a reasonable bust in price, this ultimately didn't fall too hard. $10, $11, $9, what are you going to do? Just be happy that this variant never went crazy and then plummeted. And I always say, buy what you like. Just try not to buy at the peak. Don't fall for the FOMO. I have a feeling we're going to get into some of that as well. Moving on to this list, let's get to number 9. This is Bone PARISH #1 from Boom. 3 years ago, Boom hinted that this had been optioned, yet no official news was ever released. This news pushed had a high sale of $39 for a Raw, $71 for CGC 9.8. Now, 3 years later, it was announced that Boom had a first look deal with Netflix, sending it into another surge of sales, with Raws hitting 30. 9/8 selling for $120. Today, there's been no new news around this series, helping to draw to its current fair market value of $7 raw. Gonna sneeze. It's all right, we're gonna blow right through it, don't worry. However, 9/8s are still holding at $115. This is a bust for raw, a boost for graded. It's amazing how the littlest bit of news will just send a book to new heights. Now, we always talk about too, a lot of the 9/8s seem to hold their value or continue to grow where the raws go down. This one, same thing with this book. Don't be too concerned though. I mean, unless you spent $30, hold on. News may be around the corner. You may be able to get your money back. Or again, you bought what you liked, you put it in your box, or you read it, you kept it. Not a big deal. Going from $7 to $30 is not bad. Going from like $700 down to $300, now that's a bigger deal. Let's go to number 8. Power Pack #1. This is the newsstand variant. Now, the Marvel Phase 4 rumor mill was in full effect with the Power Pack in the mix of speculation. This helped Raws reach highs of $30. Now, 3 years later, this rumor persisted despite no confirmation or anything close to a concrete rumor, with Raws staying fairly consistent in the high grade. Now, with 9/8s hitting big highs of $900 in 2019. However, today, high grade Raws remain in the $30 range, which is fair. The 9/8s settling a bit to $510. This is break even with solid 9.8 sales, despite not in 2019. What do you think? Will we see the Power Pack in the MCU one day? I'm going to say no. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let's go to number 7. This is Mr. Miracle #4. This issue features the first appearance of Big Barda, wife of Mr. Miracle. Now, 3 years ago, Tom King announced that he was writing a New Gods film for the DCU and mentioned that his interest in using Barda. This book had a massive jump in price with high-grade raws hitting a high of $265, 9 sixes, $2,092. Now, 3 years later, we know now that this project was ultimately canceled by DC. High raws settled to around $113, and while there haven't been any high-grade slab sales, the last 9/6 sold for $1,750, which isn't a bad drop despite the film's cancellation. When you compare these sales to 3 years ago, it is a bust, though these prices are still way up prior to this book's jump in price. Now, also, I want to touch on the fact that the DCEU may be going in a different direction now, so you never know. If this script is written and it's there, maybe they do want to go in a direction of a New Gods movie. I mean, that's a great run anyway. Jack Kirby, there's a lot of first appearances, a lot of cool characters. I don't know. I was a little upset when they canceled this. I know I've mentioned this before in videos and got a lot of hate because apparently nobody but me wanted this movie, but hey, more superhero movies, as long as it's a good storyline, I'm all for it. Let's go to number 6. This is Ultimates number 1. Now, 3 years ago, Ayo's appearance in Black Panther, played by Florence Kasumba, I'm definitely saying that wrong and I apologize, and additional MCU appearances helped her first appearance in this and gain attention. It sold for a high of $40. Now, 3 years later, she's still very relevant. However, last time we saw her was during The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Out of Sight, Out of Mind has brought this book down to a fair market value of $23. Now, over the past several years, 9.8s have hit a high of $300, though has since settled at $92. This is a bust, does have a little potential, but how much? I feel like the raw $20 to $30 for a first appearance on a minor key seems fair, and $100 for that same key in a 9.8 seems right? We talk about $100 for a key appearance in a 9.8 on a modern book seems fair. I always say, $100 to $125 for a key first appearance in a 9.8 seems fair, and I've said it already, just don't be that guy or girl spending the top dollar. Don't fall for it. If she starts getting rumored about Black Panther 2 and all that, settle, be calm, don't FOMO, let the price go crazy, and then if you want to buy it on the way down. There's no long-term high dollar book here. Settle, don't fall for the FOMO. Let's go to number 5. Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 6. 3 years ago, this issue was moving due to the first full appearance of a new character, Starling. This granddaughter of the Vulture took off right away, and it hit high raw sales of $16. Today, collectors love the character and continue to drive up this book's value, where it currently sells at a fair market value of $48 raw, $215 in a 9.8. This is a boost and will most likely continue upward. You know what this is? Okay, so total opposite of the last book. Modern key, first appearance, prices are a lot higher, right? 2 things in my opinion. Number 1, it's a Spider-Man key. Number 2, it's a character that people are really, really enjoying. That's going to drive the price as well. There's no MCU connection here in my opinion, but the fact that people like the character, still around, Spider-Man, that's like a lethal combination of setting the book up. I don't know if it'll ever come back down to $16 raw, but I do think you could find something like this in back bins. I do. Let's go to number 4. Yeah, let's go to number 4. Eternals number 1. 3 years ago, the Eternals' first appearance was super hot. The anticipation for this early Phase 4 MCU film promised to change the trajectory of the MCU forever. It sold a ton of copies with a high raw sale of $150 and a high sale of $1,250 for CGC 9.8. 3 years ago, this book's heat continued, culminating in an all-time high sale of $3,800 for a 9.8 in May of 2021. However, with a mixture of disappointing reviews, frustrated fanfare, and a flood of copies listed before the film's release, the market value for this plummeted. Today, raws have a fair market value of $60 and 9.8s at $950. While there's still a ton of potential in the Eternals, this was an overall bust. This book, I have never seen so many mixed reviews on an MCU movie, and this one is getting either love or hate. I never see too many people in the middle like, yeah, it was all right, it was fine. I really enjoyed it. I guess I can understand some of the hate, but I did personally enjoy the movie. Now, this book was one of those books that it didn't hold its value. And was it because of the MCU? Was it because the market was flooded? I don't know, but there's a lot of first appearances in here. It's Kirby. It's a very wordy book. I don't know. This one's crazy. It's a weird one. I do think that $950 for a 9.8 from a book from 1976 with first appearances, Marvel Key in the MCU, seems like a really good price. I mean, you just heard before, the high $3,800 in 2020 and 21. Think it could hit half of that? It's under $1,000 now? I don't know. Something fishy about this thing, man. And let me know what you think in the comments below. A lot of comments in this video. All right, let's go. Number 3. This is The Kitchen #1. Now, 3 years ago, the trailer hit for this film adaptation, and the first comic for this series spiked in price to a high of $20 raw and $119 for a CGC 9.8. 3 years later, this film was both a commercial and critical bomb. Today, raws are practically unsellable, and its current fair market value of $2 shipped and $30 for 9.8 is a bust. Nothing to talk about this other than it's junk. Be careful, no FOMO. Let's move on to number 2. This is Pearl #1. This is the MALEEV variant. 3 years ago, Brian Michael Bendis sent a tweet hinting at film news for this title. This variant for the first issue immediately took off and hit a high raw sale of $20 and $120 in a 9.8. 3 years later, that news never came. Despite this, the variant tends to still sell for $10 and 9.8s for $60. This is a bust, but you never know. With Pearl #1, I'm not going to spend too much time because let's go down. Before we go to #1, I want to remind everybody down below in the comment section, there's a lot to look at. Don't forget about the boys omnibus, oversized omnibus over on Kickstarter. Don't forget that cover price. And of course, the whatnot sales. Get your $10 off your first purchase. And with that, let's go down to #1. This is Pearl #1. Following up on #2, this standard issue sold a ton of copies, with raws selling for more than the variant, with a high raw sale of $30.56 and a 9.8. With no new news, this standard issue now sells for $5 and $70 and a 9.8. This is a raw or a bust, but surprisingly slight boost for graded. I don't know what to say about this book. I mean, are we getting it? Are we not? DC confuses me sometimes. I'm not even sure. But for $5, you can take the risk, right? For $5, it's okay. For a 9.8 at $70, think about it. To get it graded, it's going to cost you over about $40 with shipping, insurance, and all that. So for an extra $30, you're guaranteed a 9.8. Why not? Or spend a few dollars, get some raws. I don't know. Why? Take a risk if you want. It's a cheap risk. I'm not going to tell you to go spend hundreds of dollars. Absolutely not. $5 or $70 for a 9.8. Put it away. You never know. Maybe it'll double or triple if there's news. Anyway, let's close out this video for 3 years ago. With the exception of the Eternals and Mr. Miracle, almost every book on this list were pretty affordable at their 2019 market heights. While most were busts, the dips wouldn't have broken the bank. While this list wouldn't have made you anything, it's less of a sting than previous shows. Even the dips on those two big books are relatively small when comparing to sales today and in 2019. So overall, this was a list you could have easily sat out on. The only missed opportunity was the first appearance of Starling. Now make sure you check out Covrprice.com and see what's on their top 10 and their various trending movers and shakers list. Come back next show and let's see how these books did. Guys, we're going back only 1 year. We're going back to 2021. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep it comics.